Hey there, good morning everyone. Thursday, the 4th of May 2023. This morning's devotional is a reading from Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, which reads, "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." Yesterday, we began looking at developing or even deepening our relationship with God. And I think it's worth mentioning now that spending time with God, or anyone else for that matter, will not always feel like a spiritual high, or maybe even as exciting as the Sunday morning worship at the church. Thinking about it, even communication with your best friend is not always exciting all the time, but it is necessary and meaningful for the relationship to grow. So having a quiet time and praying and reading the Bible may not always be exciting and sound exciting, but it is worth it in the long run. We need to begin talking with God every day. Now, this might sound a bit weird at times because Scripture reminds us that we need to pray continually. So how can you talk to God everywhere? We've got this conception that God can only be found in churches and maybe is available on a Sunday morning, depending on his calendar. Well, we can speak to God everywhere. For example, when you've got a tough task at work to complete, your first thought should be to ask God for help. Or when something great happens to you, your first thought should be to thank God. So to pray continually means to have a mindset of prayer, and God should always be first in your heart throughout the day. God is a personal God, meaning that he isn't far away or that he only answers us when we have a need. God is with us all the time, and he wants to hear about us from all things, the good, the bad, the ugly, the big, and the small. He wants to be involved in your life all the time, but not like some nosy Parker, but rather as your God and as your guide. Once again, I can testify that I have been doing something or been involved in something where I've seen that if God was not involved in it, the situation could have gone pear-shaped rather quickly. Our relationship with others is important for developing our relationship with God. One must never underestimate the relationship with other Christians, because that will help you to strengthen your relationship with God. So here's something also important to remember. Relationships are two-way streets. It's never one way, it's two-way. So while talking to God is important, it is just as important to listen to him. The truth is, God is always speaking to us, but we don't always hear him so nicely. And that is because we get distracted by so many things, including social media, TV, friends, or even work. Be sure that you're not letting distractions get in the way of hearing God's voice. I know the urge is continually there to check that notification when it pops up on the phone. Maybe it's a notification to say you've inherited a lot of money, or perhaps won a lotto or some good news like that. Don't worry, it's going to be there. It's not going anywhere. Put distractions aside. Think of it this way. When you are talking with a best friend of yours, you would like to have the undivided attention. And the same is true when we talk with God. God doesn't put us on hold. God gives us his undivided attention. He doesn't say, whoa, I just need to make this call or answer another call. He gives you his undivided attention. Why is that? Because he loves you and he wants to talk with you. So listen. Remember, we were created with 2 ears and 1 mouth, so let us use them in the same ratio. It's not just enough to listen, we should also act in obedience. Now, that's a harsh word for many to hear, obedience. Scripture reminds us that those who love God will obey what he says in John chapter 14, verse 15. Obeying God has a lot to do with trusting him. When we don't trust God, we tend to do the opposite of what he says. When we don't trust him, it's also usually because we do not have a relationship with him. My dear friends, as with any relationship, persistence is required. Learn to push forward, but also learn that despite us hitting that flat spot, does not mean that God has abandoned us or left us. Once again, his words ring true in my ears. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I'm with you always, even to the end of time. For me and for anybody else out there, these words should be the words of great comfort. May the Lord be with you. May he bless you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be with you always. Goodbye.